A classified document from the Tokyo Ministry of Defense has recently leaked within intelligence circles. This is no ordinary military report. It is a chilling decapitation script that sends shivers down the spine of CCP's leadership in Jongnanhai. Within 72 hours, without waiting for US intervention, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force's submarine units alone could launch a segmented ambush at the exit points of China's three major fleets along its coastline. It may sound unlikely. China's naval fleet is vast, with large tonnage vessels. How could Japan possibly achieve this with submarines alone? But after watching this video, it will become clear that Japan's strategy isn't about brute force. It's about making China collide with its own fate. Chapter 1. Don't mistake it for the vast ocean. It's a deathly alleyway combat. Ready for lurking. Silent sniper attack below the thermocline. The real hunt began 72 hours ago. 2 days prior to the engagement, Japan's Taigei-class submarines had already lurked the strategic waterways through which China's three major fleets exit, positioning themselves in a critical acoustic dead zone below the thermocline. What is the thermocline? It's the layer in the ocean where the temperature changes drastically with depth, like an invisible sound mirror. When sound waves are sent downwards, they're reflected back. When listened from below, however, they easily pass through. This means you can't find me above, but I can hear you loud and clear below. This is the perfect ambush position for Japan's submarines. Japan already has 5 submarines of this class in service, along with 9 Oyashio-class and 12 Soryu-class submarines on active duty. The Taigei-class submarines use advanced lithium batteries and extreme silent operation design, allowing them to remain submerged in this acoustic blind spot for over 48 hours. They're in a state of shutdown meditation, waiting in complete silence yet constantly monitoring every movement of China's fleet as it prepares to set sail. Why do Japan's submarines need to lie in wait 48 hours in advance? What have they been doing underwater during these 2 days? Are they simply staking out positions, or is there another tactical purpose at play? The answer is this. This is the preparation phase of the hunt, and not a single second can be wasted. The aim is to collect precise background data to establish an AI-based scene matching system and train the neural network's hearing before the battle. It activates multi-frequency sonar, magnetic anomaly detection, and low-frequency seismic wave detection systems, recording the entire ocean's sound background, current flow, shipping routes, and seabed reflection features. In less than a second, it captures a sound map. This data is sent back to the Japan Self-Defense Force headquarters for AI model analysis. The moment a Chinese warship exits port, as soon as any vessel starts its main engine, powers on, or activates communication links, it will immediately be identified. This is a Type 052D, it's the target. In the final 24 hours, the submarine remains almost motionless, completely shutting down active sonar and propellers, leaving only the minimal acoustic reception system active. Knowing in advance when the Chinese aircraft carrier fleet sets sail is a critical ground intelligence. 6 hours before the Chinese aircraft carrier sets sail, Japan's P-8 anti-submarine patrol aircraft squadron takes to the skies, coordinated with SH-60K helicopters and surface vessels at the strait entrance. The goal is to perform the final refresh of the entire battlefield environment. The P-8 squadron intensively drops sonar buoys, conducting high-precision scans of every area of the strait waters, converting background noise such as sea waves, ocean currents, and commercial shipping sounds into data, establishing the latest battlefield acoustic model. This is akin to cleaning up the entire slaughterhouse before the operation, leaving it spotless, waiting for that one intruder to leave a footprint. It is also a psychological war. The launch of the P-8 aircraft squadron is a warning to Jongnanhai. We're already waiting for you. More critically, this step is the final handshake in the entire kill chain, ensuring seamless integration of satellites, patrol aircraft, surface warships, and deep-sea submarines, all ready to respond instantly. This move will completely strip the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, of battlefield awareness, rendering them blind and deaf as they head into the unknown black hole. T0. The CCP aircraft carrier strike group sets sail. T+2 hours. In the first 2 hours after the Chinese fleet exits port, the O-55, O-52D, and O-54A are navigating in waters close to the coast, where the hydrological conditions are extremely complex. Rapid changes in water temperature and salinity, mixed with noise from commercial vessels and marine life, creating a chaotic, market-like atmosphere. The towed arrays on the Chinese warships are essentially half-deaf, unable to hear distant sounds or pick up clear signals from deeper waters. Meanwhile, Japan's silent submarines are already waiting in the more distant and hydrologically stable deep-sea channel, a special water layer that allows sounds to travel far. Thus, the Chinese carrier strike group is in a half-blind state in the first 2 hours after departing port. T 2.5 hours. The Chinese carrier strike group will pass through the straits of the first island chain, akin to passing through a sieve. Surface warships have good defensive capabilities here, but the key is to detect the CCP submarines. Japan's P-8 anti-submarine aircraft, flying at an altitude of 10,000 meters, uses not only sonar but also various sensors to detect the CCP submarines. The submarines, which are large metal objects, create a slight disturbance in the Earth's magnetic field. By combining this with other intelligence and performing a computer synthesis analysis, Japan can determine a rough target area. Then, the low-altitude SH-60K anti-submarine helicopters immediately fly to that area and drop a series of sonar buoys, disposable underwater microphones. By marking that area from high altitude and precisely identifying it from low altitude, the entire strait becomes a sieve that is sparse yet impenetrable. Chapter 2. The Black Room closes, turning the deck into a helipad. 6 hours after setting sail, the Chinese warships have reached open waters, leaving the strait behind. However, Japan is not in a hurry to destroy them with direct hits to the hull, too thick, too hard, and a waste of ammunition. So, what do they target? They strike the system positions. Like acupuncture in traditional Chinese medicine, they aim for the most crucial nerve centers. First strike. Use anti-ship missiles to target the eyes, destroying the radar antennas, radar domes, and sonar arrays. At this point, the CCP aircraft carrier becomes like a giant blindfolded, unable to see or hear, and even if its aircraft take off, it won't know who to target. Second strike. Target the limbs. The aircraft carrier's elevators, towing vehicles, and catapult power supply systems are all viable targets. Is the carrier ready for its aircraft to launch? Useless. With no power to the deck, broken towing equipment, and catapult failure, the aircraft are trapped on the deck, unable to launch or land. At this stage, the aircraft carrier is no longer a battlefield engine, but a junkyard airport. Third strike. Multi-axis encirclement, plus thermocline strangulation. Japan's submarines will appear like the hands of a clock, positioning themselves at the 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock directions of the CCP aircraft carrier, forming an underwater hunting circle. As soon as they hear the sonar from the 10 o'clock direction, they turn to look for it, only to have the torpedo wake from the 2 o'clock direction appear next. Shortly after, the 6 o'clock direction signals again. Which direction should the commander intercept first? This isn't just a torpedo salvo, it is also psychological warfare under immense pressure. Underwater is not a flat plane. Oceans are like a 1,000-layered cake, with thermoclines and sonar blind spots. Just as the upper level has finished chasing one torpedo, another torpedo from the lower level has already crossed the thermocline and launched from the dead zone of Chinese sonar. The most terrifying part is that the CCP military has no idea how many submarines are around them, from which direction the next attack will come, or when it will strike. This is the true deadly intent of submarine warfare. So, how can the CCP respond? Theoretically, there are many methods, but in practice, almost none. What can actually be done is limited to two main options: anti-submarine warfare and anti-jamming, but reality is far more sobering than imagined. Let's start with anti-submarine warfare. In modern fleets, the main force for anti-submarine operations is the onboard helicopters, but the first problem is numbers. How many anti-submarine helicopters does an aircraft carrier deploy? At most, 10 or so. But how many square kilometers of sea area must be covered? Relying on just these few helicopters is like a drop in the ocean. What's even worse is the limited sortie rate. It's not as simple as just taking off. Each sortie requires a full set of safety checks, pilot scheduling, and rest rotations. If the sea conditions are poor, they can't even take off. In reality, only 3 or 4 helicopters may be available for aerial patrol, but they have to intercept a dozen submarines coming from different directions. What about land-based patrol aircraft? With long range and endurance, they should theoretically be much stronger. But now they're in open waters, far from the support of land-based air defense systems. The CCP anti-submarine patrol aircraft, when facing Japan's F-3Bs, wouldn't even know how they were taken down. Therefore, without air superiority, land-based anti-submarine aircraft dare not take off. Now let's talk about sonar. Modern warships rely on two types of sonar: towed array sonar and variable depth sonar. But once they pass through an ocean thermocline, the effectiveness drops sharply. That means a sonar that could originally detect up to 50 kilometers will suddenly only detect 5 kilometers after crossing the thermocline. It's like walking into thick fog while wearing glasses. You can't see anything no matter how wide you open your eyes. Submarines, however, are experts in exploiting these stealth windows. They know exactly where you are blind, and they will position themselves in those zones. At this point, no one knows how many submarines are under the aircraft carrier strike group. Even if the Chinese side discovers Japanese submarines, the subsequent process is terribly slow, deploying buoys, collecting data, signal fusion, and target recognition. Each step is crucial, consuming manpower and time. But during this time, Japan's submarines begin their attack, executing real-time, multi-axis simultaneous strikes. As the CCP military is still analyzing the acoustic patterns, Japan's torpedoes are already coming from both sides. Now, let's consider electromagnetic protection. In theory, there are ways: spectrum management, anti-jamming algorithms, backup links, but the reality is this is exactly where the CCP has the most weaknesses. The aircraft carrier strike group is equipped with dozens of radars and various communication devices, and each system is fighting for bandwidth. The interference between them hasn't been resolved yet, and it's already being disrupted from the outside. Once the command chain falters, signals are lost, links can't be established, and the more they try to reconnect, the messier it gets. When the electromagnetic spectrum is disrupted, the commanders become more desperate. The result will be, for anti-submarine warfare, the Japanese are too deeply hidden; for anti-jamming, the spectrum is already in complete chaos. In essence, this is a war of system against system. Even if the Chinese military's equipment is advanced, if the system isn't compatible and coordination falls short, it's not a battle, it's being beaten. And with the CCP's aircraft carrier, it's not just one link failing, it's every link failing. The entire kill chain, once disrupted, will break apart. This is the rhythm of information warfare. Chapter 3: Free narrow gates, free ambushes. We've discussed many technical and tactical details, but some may still wonder: China's navy has so many ships. Once they set sail, could they really be so easily ambushed and encircled? Let's use a map to explain it clearly. Looking at the map, one might think the ocean is vast, but naval warfare doesn't care how wide the sea is. It only cares about one thing: can this area be continuously monitored and struck? The free exit points for China's three major fleets, the Tsushima Strait, the Miyako Strait, and the Bashi Channel, are the places where wide seas turn into urban warfare zones. These free narrow gates have long been designed as calculable killing fields. Let's first talk about the Tsushima Strait. For a fleet leaving the port of Qingdao and heading out into the East China Sea, this is the route they must take. This is the echo box of the North Sea Fleet. What is an echo box? It's a confined space where any sound gets amplified and prolonged. Geometrically, the Tsushima Strait is a shallow, shallow structure, with deep waters in the middle and narrow passages at both ends. The ocean currents here are sharply sheared. The Japanese have been monitoring this area for decades, thoroughly analyzing every kind of background noise. They know exactly when it's a fishing boat, when it's a commercial vessel, and when it's just normal ocean noise. They have a detailed database. As soon as a Chinese warship powers up its engines, submarines on the seafloor can instantly identify it. This is a Type 052D coming. Now, let's look at the air. The P-8 patrol aircraft flies overhead, marking grids, while the SH-60K at low altitude drops sonar buoys into each water area, designating danger zones. This is called marking the zone from high altitude, identifying targets from low altitude. How are the submarines positioned here? Two Taige-class submarines. One positions itself along the edge of the thermocline for acoustic monitoring, while the other maneuvers within the deep water channel, ready to strike at any moment. Now, let's look at the Miyako Strait. It spans over 200 kilometers, but in reality, the deep water main shipping channel that allows large fleets to pass steadily is only about several dozen kilometers wide. Hydrologically, this area is located at the edge of the Kuroshio Current, with a stable thermocline and a straight sound channel, making it ideal for submarines to conduct long-range listening and sonar detection, as well as for long-distance communication and target positioning. How will the Japanese handle this? They use the IUSS, Integrated Underwater Surveillance System, for underwater listening and airborne multispectral fusion, treating the entire deep trench as a natural sensor. Anyone who enters is immediately detected. 3 submarines are deployed here in a multi-axis encirclement like the hands of a clock, one at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock positions. One submarine handles close-range monitoring and attacks, while another provides long-range support. The outer submarine is specifically tasked with targeting escort ships and destroyers. The strike tempo is even more frightening. As soon as the Chinese aircraft carrier strike group enters the area, the airspace is marked and the underwater hot zones are designated. 20 minutes later, the first wave of missiles accurately targets the carrier's power supply system and elevators, preventing the aircraft from taking off. 40 minutes later, torpedoes penetrate through the thermocline's shadow, creating an internal and external encirclement. 60 minutes later, the data link becomes unstable, causing anti-submarine and air defense operations to interfere with each other. Finally, in the Bashi Channel, the target is the South Sea Fleet. The Kuroshio current here is stable and the thermocline is as smooth as glass, making it ideal for submarines to perform low-speed infiltration and high-speed maneuvering. The sensing network here is even more ruthless. The northern and eastern ends are surrounded in a gate shape by P-8s and SH-60Ks, while the southern deep waters are monitored on rotation by submarines. Above, AWACS and Aegis-equipped ships are always ready to provide link-based indications. The strike sequence remains the same. The first wave of missiles targets the antenna bases, radar domes, and towed array components, making the fleet blind at the start. The second wave of torpedoes executes selective strikes based on the noise signatures of the escort ships. The final wave of heavy torpedoes and long-range anti-ship firepower targets the flagship's vital points, delivering an incapacitated and irreparable conclusion. The Kuroshio current here acts as the sound conduit. For submarines, it's like a highway, while for the fleet, it is the slaughter line. When we overlay these 3 narrow gates onto a single map, we uncover a brutal reality. The geometry of the strait, the stratified hydrology, the comprehensive sensing coverage, firepower guidance, and underwater follow-up strikes all interlock, forming a calculable killing field long ago. Thus, the entire logic forms a perfect closed loop. Japan's submarines had already submerged early, silently waiting below the thermocline, listening to your background noise 2 days prior. In the strait, they controlled the Chinese fleet, drawing an air zone above and setting traps below, before making their final attack in open waters. 3 directions, 2 layers of depth, 3 waves of sequences, targeting vital points to seal the front. Once the Chinese fleet bursts out of the strait, it enters the operating room. The deck transitions from a launching pad to a helipad. The final underwater strike is merely a declaration of execution. This is the harsh reality of 21st century naval warfare. Technology has changed the nature of war, geography dictates tactical choices, and information advantage determines the outcome. In this invisible battle, traditional naval power evaluation standards have completely failed. The true victory lies in who can best leverage modern technology and geographical environment to build an impregnable combat system.